Hey guys, so I'm making this video on my new laptop. So yay for that, yay for texture. Sorry, I'm like all squished in between my coffee table and my couch. Okay, so this video is pretty much gonna be about the wonderful things that happen to your body after you give birth, and I'm talking the long-term effects. This is 2 years later now. So, warning. If you are queasy at all, or you have a weak stomach, or you just don't like hearing about nasty personal things, I suggest you click off of this video right now. As in, like, now, because this is what I'm about to tell you is disgusting, and it's just about kind of like what's been going on in my life right now, and you never know, somebody else may suffer from this, and if you are pregnant now, you might not want to watch this, because I might scare you, but yeah, and pretty much just what has been going on. So I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to exit this video if you have a weak stomach. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So this video is basically going to be about my ass. Excuse my language. But it is. So, the beginning of this month, after I had Malia, well, I've always suffered from this, but after I had Malia, I had a hemorrhoid, and that's not uncommon for you to get after you give birth. And if those of you who don't know what a hemorrhoid is, it is a blood vessel in your butt that gets swollen, I guess you could say, when you're straining. And in my case, really, I don't even have to strain. Sometimes it just happens. Like I said, I've had these since I was like 8, unfortunately. So, with that said, about the beginning of this month, so the beginning of November, I started to notice I was getting one, and I was like, well, that's weird, because I haven't been constipated or anything. So I was like, whatever, just kind of like let it go, and then it started to get worse. I was like, okay, preparation H, if any of you don't know what that is, it's something that helps hemorrhoids. So I decided to use preparation H, and I was using the suppositories for a couple days, and I was like, okay, this is not working. So finally, last Wednesday night, I was like, okay, I was using the Tux beds too, because those helped after I gave birth. And I was like, okay, this pain is worse than after I gave birth now. And let me tell you something, after I had Malia, it was bad, okay? So this was worse, and I was to the point where, like, I was in a warm bathtub, like, every 2 hours. I could not take it anymore. I drove 2 towns away to a 24-hour Walgreens to get the outside preparation H cream, and that wasn't working. So finally I called my mom at, like, 4 in the morning. I was like, I have a problem. I'm, like, crying. I can't get out of this bathtub. I'm dying right now. So she was like, you need to go to the hospital. And I was kind of like Googling like why it wouldn't go away, and it's something called the thrombose. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might probably pronouncing it wrong. Hemorrhoid, and it's when you get a blood clot in there, and it's extremely painful. So I go to the hospital, and I was like, this is embarrassing, and I was like sobbing, and because who goes to the hospital for that? But she's like, you know, honey, it's got to be pretty bad for us to have to lance it and get the clot out and everything. So, but let's check it out. So I was like, okay. So they took me back pretty quick because this was at like 4 in the morning. And I go back there and they looked and they're like, oh yeah, that's huge and that's like definitely has a clot in it. So I was like, okay, first thing first, drugs, because I can't take this anymore. So they gave me an IV of Dilaudid, and I told her just to go for the hand. I don't know, hold on, this hand. This camera, you can see it. Right there, that's the bruise, because my veins are like retardedly small. So she did that, and they gave me the Dilaudid, and I was feeling great, and they numbed the hemorrhoid, and they sliced it open, and apparently it was like the biggest clot she's ever seen in one. She's like, you'll be good tomorrow. Okay, so had my mom come pick me up because I was drugged up. I was like, great, this is great, I'll be good tomorrow. Try again. An hour later, I could not walk. I could not breathe. I was shaking. I was dying, I think. It was the worst pain of my life. Worse than labor. Horrible. So I called my mom. I was like, you need to come get me because I'm dying. So that was probably at like 10 or 11 in the morning. She came to get me, and she was afraid I was getting an internal clot, because she's a nurse. She's like, you know what, you're in a lot of pain, you're feeling a lot of pressure again, so I'll bring you back. So she brought me back. They brought me in. My blood pressure was like 160 over, it was high. I don't know, it was high. My blood pressure usually runs like 110 over 80. It's usually, or 70. It's usually pretty low. But yeah, my blood pressure was high because I was like freaking out. They brought me back. I was shaking. They gave me a shot of Dilaudid this time, and I was like, it's not working. It was not going fast enough. So I probably sound like a complete like druggie right now, but I swear, guys, I'm not. So I was like crying and freaking out again because I could not. I was dying. And the doctor's like, well, I don't know. He's like, the best way I could see this is if you get on your hands and knees. So here I am in the emergency room on my hands and knees. My mom's there. He knew my mom was a nurse because of the terminology she was using. He's in my butt, okay? And he's like, come here, Mom, come look, like I'm giving birth or something. At that point, I didn't even care. So I was crying, shaking. I was in so much pain. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to leave her alone, get her an IV of Dilaudid. So they started my second IV. And gave me an IV of Dilaudid. So at that point, I had a shot in IV. After I had the IV of Dilaudid, I still was in pain. And now Dilaudid is a pretty strong drug. Dilaudid it's up there in the ranks. So I was still feeling pain. So they gave me another IV of Dilaudid, same place but another dose, and pretty much a liquid Xanax to calm me down. And at that point, I think it was a little too much because my your oxygen level is supposed to be at 95, no lower than 95, and it was dropping down to like 75, 80. So I was not breathing so well, so they had to put oxygen on me. Yeah. So long story short with that, he gave me some Norcos and was like, go home and rest, and here's some steroid stuff to try to make it smaller. And yeah. So here we are, 6 days later. I was probably, as far as pain, a 5, like that whole week after that. Well, the next day I was at like a 6. I was at 10.5, then a 6 the next day, and then like I was at a 5. Up until yesterday or the day before, I was like a 3 or 2. I was feeling pretty good until I had to go to the bathroom, which was like giving birth. It was horrible. And then I was back to horrible pain again. So I went to my actual doctor yesterday, and she was like, okay, well, you should be having this pain a week later. This is not okay. So I was like, that's good. So a week later, I shouldn't be having this pain, and I was like, okay, cool. So she looked at it, and she's like, oh, it's thrombosed again. So here we are. I have another freaking clot in the same exact thing with a 1-inch incision in my ass. It's not cool. I'm not happy about it. Like, I can barely drive. I can't work. Sitting right now, like, I have this other cream on it now, so hopefully, I don't know. So pretty much, now I had to go to a surgeon today. I was supposed to go to the surgeon yesterday if they could get me in, but they couldn't. I had to go to a surgeon today, and we're trying one more thing. I have this other cream, some steroid cream, and if by tomorrow morning, it's not better, I have to get surgery on, like real surgery, like where they actually remove the whole thing on, Thursday morning. Weird thing is, though, is like, this usually doesn't happen to young people like this, and they're kind of wondering why this is going on with me. So yeah. Anyway, that's what's going on. Sorry if I totally like grossed you guys out completely. I did not mean to. But you might as well know the good, the bad, and the ugly of what can happen after giving birth. No secret here. So yeah. Just letting you guys know what's kind of going on in my life. If you have any questions or had a similar experience, please let me know because I am terrified. Yeah, and have a good day, guys.